Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whenever you are. Welcome to the community live stream. My name is Chuck Tomasi. I am the ServiceNow guy with the cool bow tie, and you are watching the community live stream here on YouTube or Twitch or wherever you watch it. Thank you very much. This is Monday, March 18th, 2019, and this is the show that helps you be a more effective ServiceNow administrator and or developer. We've got audio. It happens. No matter when I leave the console for more than a few days, something crazy is bound to happen. So this is take two. I'm going to scrap take one. You never saw that. Welcome. This is the show that brings you the content to the community so that you can be a more effective ServiceNow administrator and developer by bringing you not only the questions and answers, but the insight, the thought process, the journey of discovery that goes on behind those. So thank you for joining me. If you are watching on YouTube, let's get this down there. And you are watching on YouTube, thank you very much for joining. It has, you will get a notification that looks something like this. That says, hey, community live stream is live. If you subscribe and turn on your notifications, because there is other great content hanging out there in the community channel that we'd love to share with you. And that way you get notified. I got notified on several of them. Apologize for not having a show for the last couple of weeks. It has been a crazy, crazy couple of weeks with a very high priority project that was keeping me busy from sun up till sundown. Good morning, Josh. Good morning, Carolyn. Good morning, Alan and Christopher and Jay. Jay's coming to Phoenix for spring break next week. Hey, there might be a chance for a meetup, although I do have some business trips. We've got some innovation workshops that are happening around the country, Boston and Toronto and Santa Clara, and more coming as the year goes on. So I encourage you and your coworkers to look for announcements to those. I'll get a little bit more into the coworker content in a little bit. Goran, good morning. Saw your latest video on initialize versus new record. Very good information. Thank you for sharing that. Always good to have more people doing more content. Keeps me honest anyway. All right, you can also watch this on Twitch over at twitch.tv/NOWCommunity if you choose to watch over there. Some of you do. Thank you very much for doing that, and encourage you to also participate in the community. If you've got something more than just a question or how's the weather, where are you going on spring break? Throw that into the community at community.servicenow.com. Some basic guidelines, since I haven't done this in a while, basic guidelines about the community. Search first. There's likely an answer or close to an answer that you've got out there. Post only one question per post. Makes it easier to answer and easier to mark as correct when you go to check that off and say, hey, that's the correct answer. If you've got 10 things in there, ranging anywhere from CMDB to discovery to reporting and analytics, there's really no done in that conversation. It's very, very difficult to get all 10 of them, and then you can't mark any particular single one of them as the correct answer. So somebody looking later for that information would have a very difficult time finding it as well. So think about the people coming after you that may have similar questions. The greetings all to Andrew Barnes and Rajendra. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for watching. The Where was I going? The community. Yes, still on the community details. Sorry about that. Be sure to include screenshots if you've got that capability. Code snippets are also useful. It helps people see if you are doing something related to scripting. Put in a code snippet so that people can see what's happening. And we've got a little code snippet formatter that makes it very easy to read later too. So if you just dump the script into the message, sometimes formatting, strange things happen and stretched out, long ways, hard to read. If you want the best chance of getting somebody to answer your question, do those things that you see there on the screen. If you've been around the community for a while, why not consider being an expert? Post an article, make a video, do something that says, hey, you know what, I've seen this topic 2 or 3 times, or I can respond to this. I have something to add to that, and post that back there. And people, you get residuals off of it. It's almost like a royalties thing. You'll have people liking this thing for years to come. Another 5, 20, 10, 20 points. There's a whole gamification thing going on behind the scenes, but I don't pay attention to that too much. Greetings, Deepak from India. Thank you for checking in. We also encourage you to go to the developer portal, which looks an awful lot like this, where you can get a free personal developer instance, totally free of charge, running any one of the latest releases. Madrid being our latest one that is now in general availability as of last week. You can get all the scripting APIs. There's information about developer meetups. I'll get to that in just a second. I'll talk about knowledge. These scrolling banners are my cue cards to remind me what to talk about. There's scripting APIs. There's blog articles. Andrew and Dave have been doing a great job with the blog articles. And new feature, if you haven't noticed, blog articles now have comments available to them. Thank you very much for doing that. If you look at one of the articles, you could see, here's one on the condition builder that Andrew did. Very thorough, very complete. And if you're logged in, you can leave a comment. And if I log in, I thought I was logged in. At the top of the show, I checked. But, strange things happen when you're doing things live. There, now I'm logged in. And at the bottom of the article, I can leave comments. So we've got the social component to that. Got to remember, this is all built by these two gentlemen, Dave and Andrew, who've been building this out and adding these features. As you ask for them, there they are. So we now have the comment capability. Sounds easy from a data model standpoint. It pretty much was. The hardest part was, of course, the CSS. And I always spend probably 50% or more time on the CSS alone. The rest of the app is pretty straightforward. I don't know about you. All right, the developer portal also leads us to meetup.com. So if you're on the developer portal, you can see various events under the events menu up here. And we've got Amsterdam meetup, San Antonio meetup coming up, Pune, Mumbai, New York City, Dusseldorf, Columbus, Boston. You could see Boston meetup, March 28th. Oh, a little late. We could have had a meetup this week. I'm going to Boston this week. Darn. We also have a complete list of where those chapters are. Even if there's not an upcoming meeting in your area, look in your area to see if there is something that you can take advantage of and see the meetings there. Sign up, join over at meetup.com/pro/ServiceNow Dev Program. I encourage you to do that. I should have the meetup URL on the bottom there so you can take advantage of that. So, Andrew says evil CSS. I'm really surprised by this point that there's not some sort of CSS editor, a designer that you can use online. Maybe there is and nobody's showed me yet. But to say, hey, I want to take my button and make it a rounded rectangle. And how much radius do you want? And then just spit out the CSS that I'm using at the end. What font family did I use? What was the size? Wouldn't that be nice? More of a WYSIWYG kind of thing that just says, all right, based on these tweaks you made to the widgets you've made and how many columns you have and all this stuff, it could look really ugly. And I'm sure it would have, it'd probably turn into like Microsoft Word that gives you a lot more style stuff than you actually need or want and gets in the way of everything else. But hey, if it works, it works. It would save me a lot of time from not having to go, what was the way to do that one thing on Firefox? And then there's a different way to do it on Chrome. Skip that. Okay, done with meetups. Let's continue with the pre-roll. We also have other events over at events, servicenow.com/events.html. Encourage you to go over there, take a look. We've got knowledge coming up. I know I've said this, 47 days till knowledge. That's what it said on my phone counter. 47 days. It's crazy. Because remember, pre-con training starts on Sunday, May 5th. Pre-con training 5th and 6th, so you can get training, 2-day training at half the price. Normally these courses are 3 days. We have hundreds, maybe not hundreds, probably close to that now. Of course, it's going at the same time on Sunday and Monday. Then the real conference begins on a Monday night. And we will continue that with Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I encourage you to, hope to see you in Las Vegas. We're going to be at the same convention center, the Sands Convention Center, which is right behind the Venetian and Palazzo, same as Knowledge 18. Look forward to seeing you there. If you've been there, you know your way around. If not, take somebody who has been there, sign them up and get them there. I'd love to see you at Knowledge again this year. Looking forward to getting a selfie with you. Anything else to talk about Knowledge? No, I think we pretty much talked about that in the past. You know where things are. We will also, if you haven't thought about it lately, head over to the Success Center at servicenow.com/success. Lots and lots. I think we've got 50 best practices from CMDB to upgrades to software asset management. Lots of best practices. There is a, darn it, can't remember what we're calling it now. It's not a wizard, but you answer a few questions and it will build out your success plan to help you guide you through your ServiceNow journey. Wherever you are, it will say these are the actions and you can assign them. And if I remember right, it's an editable PDF, so you can assign things to people. So look forward to seeing that. If you haven't been there, go to servicenow.com/success. The webinar tomorrow, we've got a Tech Now webinar on March 19th, 8 a.m. Pacific time. And that means I got to get up a little earlier because everybody shifted their clocks ahead. And now I've got to get these morning things out of the way at 7:30 instead of 8:30. Arizona doesn't change their times. Everybody else jumped on my time zone from California. Sign up at bit.ly/TN62Reg. Stacey Bailey is going to take us through the Madrid mobile capabilities. Looking forward to her demo on that. I'll be doing a quick tip based on community content. That's always fun. Look forward to sharing that with you as well. I'm sure many of you who watch this video already know what I'm going to talk about, but you may not know what Stacey's going to talk about. So a fun, packed, full hour of content on that. And then in April, at the end of April, we're going to talk about the Flow Designer and Integration Hub content that's come out in Madrid also with some examples. There will be a demo tomorrow as well. This is not all just slideware. Stacey's got a wonderful demo planned for you. Any code that we write, if there is any script, I will be putting that in the GitHub repository that you see there in a dated folder. And then the show notes, because I posted this video back to the community and to YouTube, will include a link directly to that folder. If there's no content, it will go to that bit.ly link. So look forward to seeing that. That way you don't have to squint at the screen and try and remember what Chuck is typing. You can copy and paste, make it, break it, take it your own. No, take it, make it, take it, break it, make it your own. That's what it is. See, I'm gone 2 weeks and I got to retrain my brain on what my little catchphrases are. And learn from that. That's, thinking back to my earliest days of doing computers, one of the things I would do is stay after school and type in programs that were in the book that came with the computer, the sample programs, and then start to tweak them. What happens if I change this parameter? What happens if I call this function instead of that function, or this subroutine, and see what happens? A lot of times it would break, but I learned something from the breakage, and encourage you to do the same kind of thing. Just experiment with other people's codes. And that means it's time to get on with the stuff in the community. Wow, brain just had a major meltdown, shutdown. Let's do a quick refresh and get into some of the new content. Oh, I should note that I do have a new pet project here at home. I was inspired by a neighbor who came over the other night and said, "Your garage door is open." And I said, I don't have a smart garage door opener, but I'll bet with a little work, I could hook up something based on I don't have within reach, the little IoT busy box that we're going to use for knowledge, and we used it last year, but same kind of processor. I've got a distance sensor in here that I'm going to hang this from the ceiling, and then when the garage door is open, it will sense that this is obviously closer than the floor when the garage door is closed. So when the garage door comes up, it's blocked, and then I will begin counting. How long has it been blocked? And then have ServiceNow send me an alert and says, hey, it's been open for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And then I'll get an alert and go, oh, okay, close it. Now, how, you ask, will this close the garage door? That is to be engineered. But I have a remote for the door because our new car has one built into the car. So I now have a spare remote. I've taken it apart, got the circuit board, and I'm going to wire it to that. So I already have a transmitter that can close it and open it. I just got to get a relay or find a way to mechanically push the button with a servo motor, but I think I'd rather do the relay and then do that. So I'm going to make a smart garage door opener using ServiceNow. Cool project. So spent some time on the firmware last night, getting a little security. It's the first time I've done password authentication and cookies and whatnot from the little device. So why do we have to refresh for new content? Can't just update dynamically in the community? That's a good question. And you know what? Deepak, you should go to Communities, scroll down here. I'm going to make it a little smaller because the menu's longer. All forums, tell you where you go to make this suggestion. It's a wonderful suggestion. And in here, you type in member, and it will come up with member feedback. And you can put that in there. First, find out if it's already in there. So if you want a dynamic list, cool. I know that the counts show up, like if it's a minute old and then it becomes 2 minutes old, it will show up there. So great question, and that's where I would steer you because the community team does pay attention to this. Other people can upvote it and say, hey, I like that too, we should have that. And that gives them an idea where to set their priority. It may already exist in a preference. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I haven't asked for it. That's a great idea. I could see reasons why you may not want live content, because if I'm sitting here reading and all of a sudden it shifts around and goes, hey, there's a new one that's been percolated at the top, because these do sort by order updated. I would like to see, oh, look, here's another sort order by popular, okay? And then, of course, you can filter. So if I were sitting here reading and all of a sudden things jumped around, that might be a little jarring. So I could see a reason why you'd want it, and I could see a reason why it might be a little off-putting. Can't you get a Comzo robot to press the button for you? I had thought of something. I do have a servo motor, but I don't have a relay, and I'm thinking a relay might be the easier way to just interface to the switch that's already on there. And that way I could trigger it from one of the pins. Anyway, enough about my garage door opener. Let's go to unreplied. Let's get something new. How to translate decimal type field values into Spanish. Numbers are numbers in any language, right? How to convert a decimal type field into Spanish, i.e. I have 30.5 in English to display 30,45 in Spanish. Oh, I did not realize that. Okay, that's a good cultural education thing. How to achieve that, how to use the localization here. I don't know that our numbers do commas. I think they're stored as floats in the database. This is a good question that I want to follow. I don't know if this exists. I'm hoping someone, make that a little bigger so we can read it, can tell me. I have Spanish installed. You know what? Let's go check this out. My TechNow Dev instance has Spanish on it. And if I put in a floating number, I think I have a sample application that I can pop in here and start destroying without affecting anything else. The herbal tea is just the right temperature. That cup keeps it hot for a very, very long time. I brewed that about almost 2 hours ago. And in studio, I think I have, yes, I'm working on the Jeopardy application this weekend. I think I have a CLS application, CLS2. And sure enough, it's got a terribly named CLS2 table, but I don't think I have a floating point number on the columns yet. Let's add one. So add a field. Let's see. Let's call it the temperature, since I was just talking about that kind of stuff. And I have floating point number. I believe there's also a decimal. Yeah, and I don't know the properties of which is which. So, hey, let's head over to the docs and find out. Product documentation, Madrid, and look for field types. There's field types. See if we can find an interesting difference between decimal is a number with up to 2 digits of decimal points, for example, 12.34. Floating point, I think, is more precise. Number up to 7 digits after the decimal point. There you have it. I always wondered what that answer was. Now we know. Get rid of that. I think decimal will be finally appropriate for our example. Let's go to update, and then back here to my CLS2 table, and I should have on the form a temperature. And let's put in 22.74, which is about the temperature in Celsius that I'll have today. It's going to be a beautiful day. Now, if I go over to my language picker and pick Spanish and Espanol, close that out. It will translate things for me. Probably won't translate my label. Nope. because this is all my table and it doesn't know where the translations are for that, it does not put the comma in there. You can see temperature does not have a comma. It is still a decimal. Darn. Bring that back to insanely large font instead of ludicrous. So, no commas. I did a check. I'm going to put that back in English so the next time I go to do development on anything related to tech now, I won't be horribly confused. I did a quick test on my instance that has Spanish language installed, and it appears that the numbers stay decimal. That would indicate that this is not available out of the box. I'm rather surprised. And I recommend going to customer support and making an enhancement request, because that is something that I think is kind of important. Thank you, Steve. It's good to be back. Steve from Sweden checking in. It's been a busy couple of weeks working on a very important project. Like I said, kept me busy from sun up to sundown. And I said, I just don't have the ability to get up at 4:30 in the morning and do the live stream and still maintain all the other projects. It was 5 to 7 a.m. is when I got all the projects related to knowledge or whatever done. And then the rest of the day was this other special project. Now, I did learn a number of things on that other project, and I am happy to share them with you. I always, whenever I learn something, I jot it down and say, this is going to make good content for the show. So let's not forget it. And I have a couple of those things, and I will share them with you in just a little bit. So file share access across. I did see something earlier that I wanted to bring up just before I started the camera. And I can't remember what it was, but let's find out if we can find out. Event rule doesn't generate an alert even though the event rule gets applied to the event. IT operations management, I'm probably not going to be able to help much. I don't know too much about event management because that's not my specialty. My specialty is custom applications, integrations, and the platform in general. So removing all roles based on last login time with the exception of some roles. That sounds quite specific. Hello, all. I want to remove all the roles from users based on the last login time condition, but I want to exclude some roles like approve user, manually created roles, etc. How do you know which ones are manually created? I tried one script where role not equal to sysid, but is not working. Can you help? This is in IT service management, probably belongs in developer because it's going to require some coding. And what do you say we take a stab at that? I would probably start with the sysuser table and find out what roles that user has, and then determine if the user has an exception in there. So it would look something like this. Var user gr equals new glide record on sysuser. The user gr query is going to be like last login is less than single quote, double quote, I don't care. I just like to stay consistent. GS days ago 60. Or would it be greater than? No, it'd be less than. We're going to find out. User gr.query. Let's get all the users that haven't logged in the last 60 days. Well, user gr.next. For each record we find, we'll go through and Don't you think you could do it with no code in Flow? Could you do it in no code in Flow? You could .walk. Maybe. Good challenge. I like it. I like it a lot. So let's go to my personal developer instance and find out how far we get. That's the fun of this. Don't know if it's going to work. It's totally unscripted. I'm going to, for the moment, switch to my global scope and go to Flow Designer. Certainly we could do this scheduled nightly, scheduled weekly. Let's create a new flow. Call this remove old roles. Done. And we will schedule this to run. I'm going to run it once for now. You can run it whenever you want. I will run it in about 6 months. Just because I'm not going to run it at all. It probably will run. I won't activate it. How's that? So my first action is going to be to do a lookup records. Thank you for the nudge, Goran. And the table will be sysuser. If you remember that little shortcut, if you put the brackets in on many of these table pickers, you can get right down to the table name. And I'm going to use the condition last login is at or before. Let's do 6 months. Wow, that was easy. It's going faster than I was typing, almost. Then for each record, and that is a logic thing. For each record that I find, let's grab the user records data pill. Done. I'm going to, now I need to search out the roles, but I need to use a different table. So this is going to be another lookup records. And then use the query from this one. So the query is going to be on the sysuser gr member table. Nope, sysuser has role. Pardon me. Sysuser, you're probably watching me screaming at the screen while you did that. Sysuser has role is the table that contains that many-to-many connection between users and roles. So if you want to remove their roles, should you use the has role table? That's what I got to look up first. I was thinking about the has role table, but for every record you find that user on, you don't know which user. You're going to have to check. There's likely, it really depends. Are there more records in has role? Because every one of those you're going to check .walk to the last login. Is it time to remove this role? Could do it that way as well. I thought about that as well. Rather than doing this double lookup, you could .walk. That would be one lookup. That might actually be faster. But the question is, do you have more users with roles to make more has role entries, or do you have more users that haven't logged in the last 60 days? I think this cuts it down so that you're looking up fewer records, even though you're doing 2 glide records. I'm just saying, if you had an organization of, say, 10,000 people, is it likely how many of those haven't logged in the last 60 days? It's going to be a pretty small subset. And then you get the records attached to those people. If you went through all of has role and you had an organization of 10,000 people, and let's say 1,000 of them had a few roles each, now you're into the several thousands of records that you're going to be searching. You don't have a way to, well, could you query that down based on the record load? Good discussion. This is like a live coding happy hour discussion where we discuss the architecture as much as we discuss the solution. So I'm going to do it this way. Somebody else want to take a crack at it another way? That would be fun too. So I'm going to look up the records in has role where user is the particular user record. And notice that I didn't walk down to the sysid, because the user record is a sysid. Just like in scripting, that would be kind of a waste of time and effort to go get that whole record just to retrieve the sysid. And you're saying, just query it. I like it. Hey man, I'm already down this path, so I'm going to keep going. This is the way we write code. Brute force first. Go with your original idea. If it's not right, then you fix it. So for each record I've got there, I need to do an exception. So if, this is where I would put in the exceptions to those. But you know, you're right. Yeah. This should not be retrieve all the records, then figure out which ones you want to throw out. It's do it in the query. So delete. This should also have and role is not one of. Can we do is not one of? We can't do is not one of in here. Oh, because it's a reference field. I thought you could do that. Okay. This might have to be a big and, though. Well, I guess it is. Let's, for sake of argument, say is not Sam or, there we go. That's what I was looking for. Is not service desk or security admin or service fulfiller or role is not, make something else up. Catalog manager. Okay, there's my exceptions. So in the query, I'm going to say, go get all the records for this user unless it's one of these. Then, of course, I could, ooh, can you do a delete record in here? Yes, you can. Whew. All right. This, of course, would have to run as system, not the person I was running it as. So under properties, I misspoke. This should be run as system user, even though I'm going to run it as administrator. And then delete the record, not, it would be user role record. Delete that. Why can't I delete that? Record is not allowed here. It's asking for a record. What does it expect to get? Interesting. The question Goran has is, should you use an and? And I've got the and. It's between user and it's not one of these roles. This or this or this or this. Or it's not this and this. I think you're right. It's not. I'm putting the Boolean logic together in my head as to which way you want that to go, because there's no parentheses on this thing. You can't say user and this. It will skip over this entirely. So that's a good question. That's a very good question, and that can be answered in a list. So let me get back to my main thing here, and we go to sys user has role.list. Wow, this really is a live community today. And let's build out that query. In fact, using Andrew's theory, let's start at this table and say, user, we need to show related fields. At the bottom of the list, you have show related fields. If you haven't seen this before, this is how we dot walk through a list filter. So show related fields, and now you get the little arrows next to it. Some of you may not have seen this before. So I can go to the user fields, and I am now down one level. So here's user role fields, here's user fields within that. I've dot walked into the user record and can say last login is at or before last 6 months or 6 months ago. Where is the other stuff? I always got to remember which way these are phrased. That's 1 year ago, not last 6 months. Yes? Because I don't see a 6 months ago. We'll go with that for now. And so if I said role is not, what did I say? I got to get one that's in here. So Suresh, can I sort this while I'm live? I don't know if I can or not. Okay, who has a role that I want to take away from my dev system? Alice Smith. But let's leave service fulfiller and space admin alone. So going back, service fulfiller, and Goran is saying and. So let's try that. Role is not space admin. We don't know that Alice is even logged in the last 6 months. So if we run that, I get CMDB admin, and I probably should have picked something on CMDB admin. Let's do this with a dependency view and template editor. I want to make sure that I get a use case that actually works here. Dependency views and template editor. All right, run that, and do those two get filtered out? Yes, so if CMDB admin, if this were to run tonight, I would see that. If I went with my theory and did an or, copy that just because I don't feel like typing it again, get rid of that condition and do an or, it would not work. You are correct. It is an and. I want it to be, and that, my friends, is De Morgan's theorem. Again, I mentioned that once before. If you want to negate an operation, the entire operation, you negate the operators and change the ands to ors, or the other way around. Okay, so given that, I would go back to my flow designer. I'm not going to build this out entirely now. Change these to ands, not ors. So get rid of that, and change that to an and. Put in the role that you want, the dependency views, whatever it happens to be. That's cool. Type in here, and then the condition builder doesn't work. Oh, well, you got to choose a role first. Silly boy. Is not dependency views. That would be more of a condition you want. So it's going to and all three of those together. I was thinking more of the parenthetical approach when you're doing Boolean logic like this, but in this case, it doesn't appear to be complex enough to matter. So taking Andrew's approach, let's not query the user records first. Let's go to user role, .walk into the role or the last login time, and then put the ands together. Again, is it going to be faster one way or another? It's probably going to be a few records each night if you're running this nightly or weekly. Don't know how many hours I spent troubling that in different cases. Yeah, Gordon, you and me both. If it doesn't look right and it doesn't feel right, try it the other way. So the answer to today's logic, here, I'll put this in here, is if you want to reverse something like A and B and say not A and B, that's the same as saying A, not A, or not B. Okay, so this is reverse. And this is same as line 3. Okay. That's what I was starting to think. So it's not one of these roles or these roles or these roles. But in this case, we were looking for a completely different condition. I'm going to abandon that. Hope that was somewhat informative. We will continue on. So let's see, has anybody responded to this yet? Come on, we had like 3 people working on this. No, then I will type something in. You could do this in Flow Designer. Thanks for the tip. Without any code, query the sys user has role table and .walk to the user's last login to build the time part of your condition. Then add to the query condition builder role is not role 1 and role is not role 2. Ideally, this would be better done in a lookup table because then you could maintain it outside the flow. Somebody's gonna say, oh wait, we have another exception, and then you gotta go maintain the flow. No thanks. I wonder if you could do this with a decision table. Ooh, there's a thought, using new decision tables and decision trees in Madrid. Now, they didn't say what release they're on, but that, I'm always looking for new ways to apply the new tools. So I'm thinking, yes, you could build a lookup table and then pass in the parameter of, here's your user, here's their last login, make the decision table determine, is it time to delete the roles? And then you could have it drop into a case that says, yes, delete these roles, or I'm thinking about that. There's potential use case in there. Then delete the record for each record found in sysuser has role. Whew. That was fun. Deepak is saying, I'm realizing that scripting was easier. Not necessarily. You know, I would rather build something that's easier to maintain in the long run than the script. You're still going to have to go through that thought process of how do you want your Boolean logic to play out and test it. And again, as we demonstrated, build those filters on the list first. It's so easy to try these things. And even if you get it down to, it's close enough, you can always copy the query and use an encoded query in your script, or rebuild this type of query in Flow Designer using the data pill picker and whatnot. Very easy. I'm gonna beg to differ that it was faster to script this and definitely harder for somebody to maintain later. Okay, I would much rather go in and maintain somebody's flow than maintain somebody's script, especially if it's complex, especially if it has an integration behind it. Okay, it's not all about the cost of the development. Remember, getting things done fast is not always the most effective. Okay, think about testing, think about maintenance, think about people coming after you. Think about your poor head in a year going, what was I doing here? Script is harder to understand years later. Been there, done that. After 35 years, yeah. Where are we going? Oh, couple of potential topics I want to talk about. We were talking about the using in Service Portal, using a number, like can you add a current value to an add info message? And the answer shortly is yes. Yes, you can if you put in current.something. I don't even remember where this was. It might have been on my instance where I had a CLS item. You know what might be easier is go to UI action, UI actions, and find out which UI actions were modified the latest. And do I have the updated field on here? I do. I have one called show workflow, open board, reset game. Okay, this probably wasn't a sample UI action. We'll take that one. It's in the CLS application, so let's go to CLS. And if I remember right, no, this wasn't on an add info message. This was on an annotation. This was on an annotation. We were talking about, can you add current values to annotations, if I remember right. This, of course, is easy, putting it in GS add info message. Let's go back to CLS items, and I think I need to turn the annotations back on. Make that bigger. I don't know, I was making it smaller. I turn annotations off because they get in the way after a while. So read the article is there. If I want to put, say, an annotation, let's put it above number. We'll go to form layout, configure form layout, and we will put another annotation in here, which is, where are my annotations? Contextual search, annotations, there. Let's put it on this side, just above number, because it looks silly. We'll do an info blue box, and you say the current number is current.number. Place that in there and save it. Wait for the annotation to draw. The current number is there. So that was a follow-up from the last time. Yes, you can put current values into annotations. It knows them. The other thing I wanted to show you was over in my notes. I talked about the dynamic blogs. Number of workshops. This is my schedule. Well, it's not scheduled yet, and some of these may even be repeats, but this is what I am put on the presentation schedule at Knowledge 19. So hope to see you at one of these. The first 8, I want to color code these. The first 8 are part of the Builder series. We have a new track, and can I change the font color format? Not to paragraph styles. Come on, Google Docs. Where's your coloring? I knew it was in here somewhere. I've done it before. It's not this one, is it? Nope. It is. I might have the font too large. All right. Never mind that. We'll just make it bold for now. These are part of the builder track, and the builder track is new. So if you have process owners, line of business people, power users that are building applications at Excel right now, encourage them to go to Knowledge 19 in the CreatorCon workshops. That's what the CCW stands for. Sign up for one or all of these to build applications and understand those deeper technologies. This is a no or low code series of workshops. All 8 of these are geared towards that persona. If you've been around ServiceNow for more than a year, these probably aren't going to be of much value to you. You're going to be deeper into the scripting and what you're more than welcome to come, but you might be, a little bored or finish early with some of these. We have Jeopardy. You've seen the Jeopardy game here as it's being built out, and on Live Coding Happy Hour as we were doing some work on that. I've got the Jeopardy game. Did a little more work on it this weekend to finish up some of the data model refactoring. And we'll be playing it 3 times on Tuesday, 1 at noon and 2 during the opening, the evening party, I believe it is. So 6 and 6:30 in the developer theater. Come join, have a lot of fun. This is going to be a complete blast. And then after Knowledge, I will be distributing the Jeopardy game and the sample data that I use for that. I also have a couple of developer theaters that are going on there. And the integrate Amazon IoT dash buttons with ServiceNow is back in a new and improved format, so it's a lot simpler to do. Same concepts. I've got a dash button, I've got a device to trigger, and I've got a team of people. The lab guide has been rewritten in a very fun and friendly way. So I'm also going to be in the Hack Zone. I've got a Hack Zone exhibit that's going to go on based on something that I was doing personally last year. The builder space, we've got that sort of mini labs of what you saw up here for the CCW workshops that I put in bold. That is going to be on the show floor, just short little vignettes to build an application, do your form layout, import a spreadsheet in these 4 stations. And then, of course, the hackathon. So I hope to see you there. I also have, let's see what's on my list of things I learned while I wasn't doing a show. addQuery, I mentioned this in the Slack channel, and I think we mentioned this on Live Coding Happy Hour. I can't remember in the last couple of weeks. addQuery now flags invalid queries. This is pretty much deprecates one of our best practices to turn on strict queries. What it used to do prior to Madrid was ignore invalid queries. I don't even think I have a London instance to demonstrate this on. But if I go to scripts background, I'm going to write a quick script here and say var user gr equals new glide record sys user. We'll start where we were before. And if I had said user gr dot add query active, and I spelled active incorrectly before, this is pretty powerful stuff now. User gr dot query, and let's just do a gs.info user gr dot get row count. Just tell me how many records you retrieved. Very simple script with a typo in it. And I go in here and run that. It says, no, active was not found in this table. It's finally been smart enough to say, what are you trying to do? Because previously this would ignore it and return you all the records, which not good, right? If you're trying to maybe update or, God forbid, delete something, and you mistyped sysid equals, you could potentially delete everything. So let's take a minute and go, yay, that's awesome. So that is that's one of the things that I discovered while I was roaming around on the applications that I built, because I actually did type a field wrong and it went, no, that's not what it's called. I quit. Get out of here. Using email, building notifications from tables that don't have, they have an email field. This got a little tricky. And I ran into this twice on 2 different scenarios. One was on the TechNow application. So if you submitted a question on episode 61, last month when we were talking about the Madrid features. I said, you know what? We always tell people on that show that we are posting the questions back to the community, but I have yet to see anybody say, hey, where's my question? Or thank you for posting this, or follow up. And I found out on the Madrid features in February, a lot of the responses were, I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. Can you please post in the comments below? Well, when I prompt for a follow-up like that, it's not going to do any good if they never see it. So I needed to be a little more proactive, and I built in a feature that said, hey, I'm going to send an email to this person. Well, if you look at the table for attendees, let's just go to Studio. Studio has an application called TechNow. Amazing, isn't it? This is the application that helps manage the process, the follow-up, all imports all the questions and answers and survey results. It's got a lot of tables in here, and one of them is the attendee table. And when you register, I get a spreadsheet back at the end. It says, Goran Lundquist, email address, signed up. Cool. Actually showed up and got in there. So I take that and import that. But notice this table does not extend sysuser. Okay, that's an important fact, because now when I want to go and email these people and create a notification, this is where the tricky part comes in. Notification, question posted. I've got one whole notification, but I plan to talk to you more. Okay, I need to say your question has been posted, and here's the best part. I want to provide a link directly to the question on the community. So I put in some new tags. I'm stalling while this form loads. I've been doing HTML for well over 20 years now. Oh my goodness, almost 25. Still not the world's most proficient expert at it, but I know that you could put an anchor tag in there with just a name and say a name equals something. That's actually an older method. I did a little research, said, is this still valid? You can do that, but the more appropriate is to use an ID tag on pretty much anything. So I used a div tag and said, when Steve clicks on the link in his email, it will take him to his question in the community. So I added a div tag with an ID, and I used the sys-ID of the question, figuring that's unique enough, right? And then put that into the notification. So who will receive it? You can't use the attendee field because it's actually the whole record. You can't use the attendee. I could use the attendee's email, but then it doesn't say hello, what's your nice name, that kind of thing. It was rather tricky to get this in here. So I said, let's pass this as the parameter in an event. So the email is triggered by an event. And that's done when I click a UI action. It says, see all the questions, send all the people. I did consolidate these because there was one nice person who had 6 or 7 questions, and I didn't want to send him 6 or 7 emails. So I wrote a mail script that rolled those all up into 6 links in one message. So out of 180 questions, we had about 120 email go out and say, thank you, your question has been posted. Here's the link or links to your questions. Click it and it will take you right to those. And then we can continue the discussion on the community. But unless your table extends sysuser, as it does in CSM, you cannot use this type of construct, even if there's an email field on there. So this is an episode record. I don't have access because it's a one-to-many to the attendees. If I went on the attendee table or I went on the question table does have a link to attendees. It says, who asked this question? I still cannot use the email here that says, let's use the attendee link from the question table because it's not extended from sysuser. There's some underlying platform logic that says, this is a sysuser table. I know the name to put on the notification. I know the email. I don't necessarily agree with it. And I talked to one of our developers and said, could we do this for additional tables? So option 1 right now is you got to write some mail script. You got to write something to trigger that event. You put the event in parameter 1. I also put a whole bunch of stuff, all the questions in a big JSON object in event parameter 2, which is kind of fun, actually. You can pass complex information. I'll talk about that sometime. And then you can get your hands on it. So that's not elegant. The counterpart is extend sysuser on your table. So attendee, if I had extended sysuser, would have been easier to get the attendee's information out of. But it means I'm now extending sysuser, and sysuser is going to have thousands of people that they may not necessarily want in the sysuser table. It's like task. Task has all the incidents and changes in project tasks, and it's a parent table of all of these other child classes. And do you want to do that to sysuser? So you either have complex logic or you have a very large sysuser table. Now I know that CSM, Customer Service Management, extends sysuser. When you turn on that plugin, suddenly sysuser is extensible. And I did that for the TechNow application. I don't know if it says it in here or not. And migrated all of that information over. Did I do that for TechNow or did I do that for... No, I'm sorry. I did that for the other application that I was doing a demonstration for. I did not do that here. So I may go back at some point and change the data model so that the attendees are extended from sysuser. Still rolling that around in my head and still looking for time to do it, to be blunt. But that is another one that I learned about email. Didn't know that going into this. I thought, hey, if I've got... it's now 7 o'clock. All my alerts are turning back on. If I've got a record with an email field in it, it should just understand, right? Well, it doesn't. It's even though it's called email, just like it is in sysuser, it doesn't recognize that. There's something special about the platform architecture, about sysuser, that makes picking the user field or a reference to the user field much more elegant. It could be a record, as I demonstrated in the other demo that I did last week. It could be a record that's in an extended table. It will still work. It doesn't have to be sysuser. It can be an extended table. I should have clarified that. So hopefully that all makes sense. Everybody have a wonderful Monday. I am done. Get the right table here. There we go. I am done for today, and it's going to be a short week again this week. I will do my best to bring you an episode tomorrow, finish up some of these more discussions about what I've learned in the last couple of weeks, bring that to you, and then I've got a business trip this week. I've got another one that's going to break up next week, and I've got another one the week after. So probably 4 or 6 episodes for the remainder of March. That's what I'm hoping for, if the rest of the world doesn't impact this. So I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, and we'll talk to you then. Until then, if you learned something, share it, be helpful, and I will talk to you again next time. Thanks, everyone.